so much for tuning in to another Front Porch Conversations here at Advent Christian Village. Our guest today is Laura Putnam. Laura, thank you for coming and being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Laura has long history with Advent Christian Village and the denomination, but let's start before that. Where were you born and what is your early childhood memories?
I was born in Burlington, Vermont, and my family was living just outside of Burlington at the time, and we moved to Morrisville, Vermont, when I was 2, and lived just about 8 miles, I think, from Stowe. Lived on the farm there all the rest of my life in Vermont.
And what was did you farm a particular way, or?
My dad was farming for another gentleman who was ill and could not carry on his farm. So he accepted us into his home, and he was just like a grandfather to me. He was, in effect, really a grandfather. Yeah.
What do you think back and enjoy the most about your growing up on the farm?
I guess helping farm. We were 4 girls, so we had an opportunity to help in the hayfield. And, we didn't do a whole lot because Dad usually had a boy or man that came in to help. But yes, growing up on the farm was always very meaningful.
And did you enjoy winter on the farm?
Oh, yes. Skiing, sliding. I don't want to go back to it now, but it was fun then.
And where did you begin school?
About a half mile from home. I was in a small country school, and it closed, I think it closed its doors right after I went to high school in the village, which is 3 miles away.
And what was your transportation to and from school?
Walking or bicycling.
Even in the snow?
Walking, yeah.
Okay. That'll be hard for a lot of people to fathom if you didn't grow up in the snow.
Right. No, we walked. Dad was busy with the farm, and he rarely took us. Maybe I think my older siblings once or twice he took them, but no, we walked.
What did you enjoy most in school?
I don't know what I enjoyed most. I struggled through school because I had a lot of eye problems. So it was a struggle. I didn't like mathematics.
I can identify with that.
Yeah. Well, I realize now I didn't see numbers well. And so I missed quite a bit of school at times. So I don't know what I enjoyed most. It was okay. It was nothing bad or a thing I dreaded. I just didn't get involved in a lot of things because we were 3 miles away.
Was church an important part of your growing up?
Yes, definitely.
And did you attend the same church most of your life?
Yes, all of my life. Actually, you may be interested in this, that our dad gave Fifth Sunday offerings for Dowling Park when it began in 1913.
Wow. And that was a great investment on his part.
The church routinely gave on the Fifth Sunday offering, they gave loose cash, whatever they could. So yes, we grew up knowing about the village, not knowing a lot, but knowing about it and sharing in it.
And I've interviewed somebody else recently who said he knew about it from the cradle because his father was also giving to the Fifth Sunday donations.
Right.
Laura, you graduated from high school?
I did.
And then what?
Worked in a local office, small loans office, as secretary and accountant or whatever for about 5 years.
And then from there, what happened?
All of a sudden, I just felt the Lord calling me to go to Bible school. Had no plan, really, but I felt that's where He was directing. So I did.
And where did you go to Bible school?
It was Berkshire Christian College, ultimately. The first year, it was New England School of Theology in Boston area. And then I moved the second year to Berkshire in the western part of Massachusetts.
So was that your first time to live away from home?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And how many years was the?
4 years. Yeah, I graduated with a BA. Later on, I did take 1 semester of study in graduate study, but didn't have time for anything else.
Were you working your way through college at that point?
I did work my way through, and we didn't have much for scholarship help, and I did what I could do. I worked in an office in Pittsfield in Massachusetts, and then worked at the college, in the library and in the dining room.
And did you meet people there that you still know here at the village?
Bill Crocker was in my class. Dottie Berggren.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, several others. Oh, yeah. I knew a lot of them.
I know there are a lot of associations here
Right.
among members.
Yeah.
What happened after Bible college?
I was accepted by the mission office to go to the Philippines, but I didn't actually leave until 63.
Okay, wait a minute. Now, that's the
Advent Christian denomination, yeah. And so for a couple of years, I worked either in churches or just doing a variety of things until we took some missionary internship seminar training class. And then when I finally got my visa, Larry Watton and I left together for the Philippines.
Did you and Larry know each other prior to that time?
Not really. We had met briefly, but we really didn't know each other until we were in missionary internship together in Detroit, 62.
How long was that program?
I think it was 9 months. We worked in a church and then took some classes weekly. Actually, we met Dolores Moore there at the same time.
Oh, really? I didn't know that connection.
Right. I didn't know her well, but we did meet up with her then.
And as a part of your training, did you know where you were going to be going?
Yes, really. Originally, they had talked of sending me to Japan because they needed missionaries there. And I think the Lord clearly led. Otherwise, I don't think I would have fit in well in Japan. They're too culturally elite, and I'm not sure what word I want to use. But I was happy when they sent me to the Philippines. Yeah.
And you and Larry worked together?
We were in language school together in 63 until 64. Then we moved south to the island of Mindanao. And we were together for a few months, but the team there wanted me to stay in the city of Cagayan de Oro and work in student ministry, student dormitory. And there was no real reason for her being a nurse to be in the city. They wanted her in the mountain area where we had other missionaries. So she moved to the mountain and I stayed in the city for 8 years.
Well, let's just stop for a minute and tell our viewers a little about Larry. Larry has lived here at the village for many years.
Yes, she has.
And so you have maintained a long-term friendship
We have
as
maintained
well.
a long-term. Yes, during our years there, we usually took our vacations together, sometimes on the Wycliffe base camp, which was 5 or 7 hours away. But we often took our vacations together. If we could manage to go to Manila together and take our annual physicals, annual medicals, we did it together. Later on, my last term, we were living together in Cagayan de Oro. So when I moved here in 82, she moved here in 83. So we've had a special relationship.
And that was since 1962 through now. Amazing.
It is. Yeah.
What was your biggest adjustment to living in a foreign country?
I don't know. As I think back, I knew a lot about missions in general, theoretical, because I was brought up. If there was a missionary in our church, they stayed at our house. So I was brought up with a lot of it. So nothing much really surprised me all that much. The poverty and some of those other things. What was my biggest adjustment? Probably really learning to truly communicate.
And did you
learn the language?
And you had language training.
Yes.
Pretty good.
We took language training in Manila, which helped us. We had a delightful Filipina, Cebuano speaking young girl that lived with us. She also spoke Tagalog, and she was a good cook too. And she helped us. We'd often just sit around and try to talk, to communicate. So that was very helpful.
By the time you were in the Philippines, did they have a written Bible in their languages?
Oh, yes. They had a written Bible for a long time. And it was pretty good translation.
I know several of our other interviews have been with people who have been with Wycliffe as Bible translators.
Right.
So I just didn't know what period of time.
No, the Philippines had 400 years of Spanish rule. So they had the makings, I'm going to say, of Christianity in general. Yes, they had a good Bible available, and it was a good translation. So,
and was it in the various different languages of the Philippines available?
Several of the major ones. I'm not sure. Now, a lot of the tribes, no.
Mm-hmm.
They probably had at least 5, maybe 7 major translations. The major ones.
Uh-huh.
I think the Philippines have been quoted as having over 27 dialects. My goodness. I think maybe even more than that for dialects. But the major translations, they had it. Now, many of the people in the rural areas never saw it. The Catholic Church, by and large, never allowed them to have a Bible in their hands.
Mm-hmm.
So,
or at that point, it would have still not been in English either, or any other major language.
No. In the late 70s, the church was much more generous, and we had much better relationships all the way around. Yeah.
When you moved to the Philippines, that was your first time living in a warm climate?
Oh, yes.
I bet there were some stories and adjustments there.
October 12, we got off the plane in Manila. It was hot, humid, and they were playing Christmas music. Yeah, it was hot. I was on the coastline all the time. So, it was hot.
From your first experiences there, you changed assignments?
I was in Cagayan de Oro, the small city, for 8 years, working in student dormitory. Part of the time I had 16, and then I had 30 girls living with me. But then the next 4 years, I was up on the end of the island in Surigao City, a smaller, and doing church planting. Had a Filipina girl with me. And then they brought me back to Cagayan to work in the Bible school.
So the dormitory was for the Bible school?
No, it was not. The dormitory was for really girls, and then we had boys who had to leave their hometown to go to high school or college. And we had at that point no 7th and 8th grade, so we had kids coming to high school at age 12, graduating from high school at age 16. Beautiful young girls, and Papa says, no boyfriends. So we tried to provide a home for them. They did their own cooking, and they did their own washing. I just tried to supply some of the rules and guidance.
Now, did you and Larry, were you then, no, you didn't live together again until you were almost leaving, right?
We really didn't live together again until 77 when I went back. Yeah.
Laura, during the time you were in the Philippines, did you have the opportunity to come back to the United States?
Yes, about approximately every 4 years. No, I didn't stay. The plan normally was a year furlough, and I think I never did take a full correct furlough. In 77, when I came home, which is my normal furlough, the staff on the field asked me to come back in 5 months because my visa had to be renewed, and we were under martial law in the Philippines, and they weren't sure they would renew it if I wasn't back. So I got to come home again in 79 for my parents' 65th wedding anniversary, and had 3 months, I think, at home. But normally it was 4 years at a time. No telephone back and forth.
Letters, the old-fashioned way?
Letters.
During that time, what are your fondest memories of being there and your work?
Some of the people that we worked with, some of the kids that I had in my dorm got to be a sponsor for their weddings, involved with their families. Yeah, there's a lot of lovely memories there. Wouldn't trade it for anything.
And in my mind, it's a beautiful island.
Well, it is, depending what you're looking at. A lot of Mindanao and a lot of other areas, very low wealth, very low. But yes, the people are lovely, lovely people, gracious. And the island is. It's mountainous and you're at the shore. Mm-hmm.
Well, what made you decide that it was time to not remain as a missionary there?
When I came home in 81, I was tired. We'd had 4 rough years, but that's all right too. But I was tired. I just felt that the Lord didn't want me to go back. That my mother and dad needed me at home, which was true. Mm-hmm. And that was the combination. Also, really, I think as I look back at it, the Lord was systematically removing some of us slowly from the field so the national Christians could take over their own work. So I think it was really a whole combination of things.
It's hard to pinpoint any big
Cannot
things.
pinpoint at all.
When you came back, where were you living then?
I came back to my mother's parents' home in Vermont. And at that point, my dad was 89, mother was 80, and they knew they needed to make some major changes. And they really needed some help to work those through. So we spent time talking about them and researching. And it was just about an even year when we moved to Florida.
And you moved as well?
Yes. Yeah, I had really thought earlier on I would perhaps pastor a church or take some work where I could be in close proximity to them. But when the Lord just seemed to lead and we ended up in Florida.
That was quite a trip.
That was quite a trip. It was. I had known Jim Humboldt briefly in Bible college.
Oh, okay.
And I wrote him a letter at one point asking if he could make any suggestions as to where I might be able to drive to get work. And he just answered back, well, when you get here, come in and see me. So that was the answer.
So tell us what that meant.
Well, quickly, as soon as we got settled a little bit, we moved into a rented mobile home in Butterfield Acres. And I talked with Jim, and he sort of offered me a job which I did not understand exactly what he was talking about. I was too Filipino, I guess. There was so much I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And then Pomeroy asked me to talk with him, and he offered me a temporary job in his office, which wisely I refused. Well, I told him if I had an appointment with the personnel person, and I said if they offered me a full-time job, that would be my first choice. I was no more fit to be in someone's office at that point. I didn't know how to be American, hardly, in terms of telephoning, in terms of a lot of things. So when I talked with the personnel director, she specified and offered me the job in the nursing home as activities director, which I didn't know what I was about to do.
And that was at Good Samaritan?
Well, it was not. It was in the old nursing home, J. Ralph Smith Nursing Home, which is now Riverview. That was in 82.
So you became the activity director?
As the activity director. They had just divided up, just recently before that, from the social worker and activities, and those had been divided. And how did you learn to become an activity director? By experience. Well, that and one of the girls that had been working there helped me. Yeah, they did.
And did you work in that position through the move to the Good Samaritan Center?
No, ma'am. I cut out shortly before that. In '89, I had an automobile crash. It didn't work for a year and a half, so I could not go back on the floor, especially at Good Sam. I couldn't do it. So then Jim offered me the job of really initiating the volunteer office.
Thank you for doing that.
That was fun. It was fun.
And I know that there's been such a history throughout the years of volunteerism here at Advent Christian Village.
And we had had a lot of volunteers before that, but we had never had any organization. We never kept track of it. No.
And Laura, probably the first week I came to work here, I met you.
Perhaps.
And
what year did you come?
In 2006.
2006.
You were not in that position
No,
at that time.
I had retired.
Because Eleanor was
Right
there.
Yeah.
But immediately, in getting to know you, I felt this woman is really organized and she knows everything about the village. And I appreciate you sharing with me through the years.
I've been here a long
working
time.
together.
It feels like it. But I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Would you go back and tell us a little about your accident?
Well, Louis and I were together. We were on vacation in on vacation at Cedar River. And this one afternoon we'd gone to Crystal River. And we're driving back. And I have no memory of it at all. And this drunk driver crashed into us.
And I'm not asking you to relive the bad memories, but it's a chapter in your life.
It was a very real chapter. Both of my legs were broken in 4 places. And she and I have a long-standing joke between us that she's mad at me because I got the helicopter ride and she could have enjoyed it. She was conscious, I was not.
And where did the helicopter take you?
To UF, in Gainesville. And actually, she should have had it because she was crushed internally and was in much more danger than I probably looked the worst. I'm sure I had blood from here to here, but anyway, but I was unconscious, and so they airlifted me. But she was back at work actually in 2 months. I wasn't on my feet for a year and a half, really. So that was a different experience.
You know that we've also interviewed Myrtle, your sister,
yes.
And she told us that her move to the village was to help you.
Right.
And so we've had a long history together. But it looks like she did a great job of helping.
She did. The doctor almost, I was going to say, held her in whatever to be sure that I didn't get infection because she had to clean around my pins 3 times a day for how many days? How many weeks? I think it was 7 months before I got cast on one leg.
My goodness.
So, yeah, we've had a long history together.
Well, another long history you've had at the village, you and I have worked on together, and that's Village Voices.
Oh, yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Village Voices?
Okay,
because you were there from the beginning.
From the beginning. Jim Humbles asked a number of us to meet with him. I think we met at Copeland Community and talk about his idea for something in writing. I made the mistake of acknowledging I knew a little bit about putting a paper or something together. I was in the volunteer office at that point. So as it ended up that year, we worked together. I can't recall immediately who was major, but I think we had maybe 7 or so people that really worked on that first issue. And then Mary Crawford typed up the first 2 years. I think she typed up the draft before we printed it. The first 2 or 3 years, I've forgotten which now, we went into Live Oak and actually collated it ourselves at the printer. So it's been an interesting experience working together with so many, but just putting it together, trying to get people to write and share. It's been a fun one. When I retired in 1997, I think it was, I sort of told Dick that I would continue it for a year or so. I continued it for quite a while.
And I'm very grateful because several years you told me this was your last year. And I finally listened, didn't I?
You did, finally.
Well, thank you. That's a great legacy for them.
It was fun. I had several people, Wally McGee particularly, that helped so much in teaching me how to put it together with a computer. And she did it, and then I learned how. And but I was glad to pass it on to Peg, who knows so much more than I do.
Well, we all learn from each other.
We do.
And times change and the methods change.
And they do, yeah.
One of the other long-term involvements you've had is through the ceramics shop. And would you share a little bit about that?
Well, when I first came in '82, I guess probably when I first started working at the nursing home, Ruth and Al Lawton, who were the instigators of the ceramic shop, Ruth invited me to come on a Monday night, and I chose to go just to get acquainted with people, which was part of its purpose, but just to get acquainted with people. Well, it was out in the middle of the parking lot, where across from where the chapel is now, and that was the building. We had 2 or 3 from the nursing home that liked to go over and do some ceramics. Well, they were taking up all my time trying to help them. So Ruth says to me, "Why don't you start ceramics in the nursing home?" I didn't know much about ceramics. But anyway, I did. And I think we had, I've forgotten, but probably 5 or 6 that really enjoyed doing it. So it gave me a little more time then to do some things for myself. Later on in '87, I believe it is, that Ruth and Al were going to a training seminar 4 weekends in a row, 4 different months, Fridays and Saturdays. And so she asked me if I'd like to go. I said, well, yeah, I thought I might enjoy it. And Jim Humboldt gave his permission, and the village paid part of my tuition for that. So I got, the 3 of us got certification for ceramics. So after that, I crashed up. And after that, Ruth had major heart surgery, and then as they grew older and less able, I just sort of took over more.
And you've had the ceramic shop everywhere, from the former dairy barn to the new
to where
shop.
it is now. Yeah.
A nice move, wasn't it?
A nice move.
Nice
and
facility.
yesterday, Chris and I went to Lake Butler to visit a new, relatively new ceramic shop. We came out away breathless with what they have and can do.
Wow.
I'm hesitant to say how many molds they had, but I'm going to say, I want to say 35,000, but I think that may be pretty high. They have oodles of molds for their own. And it's going to be just a good place to get supplies.
Laura, we could talk a lot longer.
We could.
But would you wrap up by sharing with our members or a young person a piece of advice from all your experiences?
Seek out God's will and go where He calls. I can't think of a better thing to do, really. How does He direct us? I don't know, a variety of ways. I just, over the years, I grew up knowing the aim was to please God. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Laura, thank you so much for our time together.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for sharing with our members.
It's been a great place to live.
Absolutely, I agree. And now, thank you for joining us. Look for future episodes to come out, and the Friendly Neighbor News will have those listed. Thanks for watching.